My name is Cheri, Cecala.
My name is Guagenti.
And we're here to talk about living our lives without our spouses.
Welcome to the Redirect Podcast, where we explore what comes after career. Real conversations about transitioning from the 9-to-5 grind to your next great adventure. Whether you're heading into retirement or simply redefining what purpose means, we're here to inspire, inform, and help you reimagine what's next. This isn't the end of the road. It's the start of something new. Dale and Adam, it's always good to see you guys. I got a question for you guys. There's a common vow that's said in, I would say, a good number of wedding ceremonies that says, "Until death do us part." It was in our wedding vows when I married Jackie. And I'm assuming, Dale and Adam, that it was probably mentioned in your marriages or in your wedding vows.
Yeah, both my weddings. Mm-hmm.
So
I resemble that remark.
Have you ever thought about "until death do us part" and the impact of the loss of your spouse?
So I was thinking about the potential of you asking that question, and I decided to do the right thing, and that's ask my wife. I said, "Boy, what would you do?" And she very quickly said, "I'd sell the house and buy a horse."
You'd get replaced with a horse.
For myself, being in the next 30, think about that a lot. Just could not imagine life without my spouse. So, I try not to, ruminate on that very often. However, at work, we used to have something that was called the 100-day plan. And if I was to die somehow, we had a plan of what do you do the next 100 days? Who does what? I think about to death do us part, the loneliness and everything that would go with that. Could not imagine life. However, in the reality that it could happen, am I prepared to take over the household? And I can honestly say when I look at that, I did more for the business than I've done for myself in the household. So that to me is a scary but a very, real consideration.
I haven't thought about it kind of at all. And I feel like maybe that's the wrong answer, but that's my answer. I haven't thought about it. So if anything were to happen, it would take me by surprise.
Well, I've thought about it, and I'm going to honestly say I'm a little uncomfortable right now because my lovely wife is sitting in on this session.
She's way over there.
Hi, I know, but I might get emotional on it in the sense that I don't know what I'd do.
Not move in with me.
Heck no. But no, I mean, Jackie is such a big part of my life, and she's sort of the reason where I'm at in my life right now, and I would definitely be lost. It would be more of a person. I'm not really worried about how to manage a home or how to do the day-to-day things. It's just the loss of Jackie that would just rip open my heart and make it a bit of a challenge to get out of bed. But then again, then I think of the other part is knowing where she is and that she's with the Lord and that I'm blessed that she's able to be there, and it's not to move on, but just to deal with it. But it would be tough. Love you, girl.
And that probably leads well into our topic today. You heard in our intro, we've got a couple of ladies today, Cheri Cecala and Guagenti, who've experienced living life without their spouses. Cheri's husband, Fino, lost his 13-year battle to early onset Alzheimer's in March of 2023. Fino was just 69 years old at the time of his passing, and throughout his prolonged illness and later demise, Cheri was thrown into multiple redirections, as you can imagine. Guagenti is a longstanding friend of the Redirect podcast, having appeared on the beta as well as episode 13, Letting Go of Your Stuff. Guagenti lost her husband, John, in August of 2019, not from a prolonged illness, but suddenly as a result of a tragic car accident. Ladies, thanks for your willingness to come in and share your stories, and welcome to the Redirect podcast.
Thank you.
So let's start with Cheri, if I can.
Sure.
Fino passed away 2.5 years ago. You had worked with him, been with him in his declining state for 13 years. I'm sure we have many listeners that are caring for a loved one, a spouse right now because of a debilitating illness. How did you handle that?
The long and the short of it is I had to.
You didn't have a choice.
And I wanted to. I was fortunate enough to do some end-of-life care for both my grandmothers, my in-laws, my parents, and ultimately my husband. And I found it very fulfilling. And I know how very much they all appreciated what I was able to do for them. But I also have 2 fairly young children yet. They were in their early 20s when their father passed away. And I wanted them to see my version of what love was all about and how dedicated I was to my marriage and to my family.
That's amazing.
It felt so good to be able to do that for Fino. He gave us everything, and, all I had was time, and I wanted him to have all my time he needed.
How many total years of marriage did you guys have?
We had 33 years together as a couple. We were about 6.5 years before we got married.
I unfortunately know a couple people who are in the middle of caregiving.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice do you give to the caregivers as they go through, but also to people that want to help or want to be whatever they can be for you? What does that look like, or given your experience?
Yeah, so my experience may not have been typical. I don't know. Fino didn't want anyone to know that he was sick or to know the nature of his illness.
It's quite the burden for you to carry.
Yes. Yeah. It was really hard on a lot of days because I didn't want to betray him and because it wasn't a secret. He thought it was a secret, but everybody who knew me and knew him knew that he was ill and that it was Alzheimer's. So I sort of stopped going places and seeing people and doing things because I, at a certain point, couldn't take him any longer. But also, as the keeper of that secret, I just didn't want to put myself out there in a position where I would either have to not be honest with someone who was trying to be sympathetic and supportive of me, but I didn't want to betray him either. So it was hard. People told me often, be sure you take care of yourself. You can't be all about your caregiving. You have to take care of yourself. And it seemed sort of disingenuous when I received that information over and over and over and over again, but it couldn't have been more true. That I needed to make sure I was taking care of myself, because then I wouldn't have the energy and the wherewithal and the compassion that I so desperately wanted to share with my husband.
Did you have a time where that sunk in and you were able to start taking care of yourself, or did you just power through? I mean, how did you respond to that?
I powered through a lot of it. I had a couple of amazing individuals who ultimately were able to come and help me. But when it got to the point where I couldn't have someone volunteering their time in that capacity, I had to look for professional caregivers. And again, just so blessed with the people who were referred to me. They took great care of all of us, my children, myself, my dog, and of course Fino. So
2023, it's pretty recent.
yes.
I'm personally amazed by the grace in which you tell the story you've told so far. There's obviously probably lots and lots of pain and hurt and tucked in all of that. And help me ask this question carefully, because I want to treat it well. Did the prolonged nature of the illness help you say goodbye over a period of time?
I'm going to say no. It didn't help me with the goodbye, but I was able to process a lot of grief. You know, when you see him going away bit by bit by bit every day, or something happens, and my big thing was like, oh gosh, that's new. He's not done that before.
Mm-hmm.
Those were my real heartbreaks.
Cheri has so much grace, and she always had for those 13 years so much grace, and I give her huge kudos and hugs because of that.
Thank you.
So if I can throw it on over to Gay Marie, with John passing 6 years ago, and same thing, loss of a spouse, but very different way. As we just learned, it was a prolonged and the things involved there. But John was taken from us really quick. It was shot from left field.
Mm-hmm.
What are you willing to share concerning your feelings and that tragic loss and the suddenness of it all?
I was in shock. It happened in an afternoon, and I got a call saying that John was in an accident. And I thought, oh, Lord, now what do you do? Because he was prone to accidents. Anyway, I went to the place where it was thinking he was going to be okay. But when I got there, I didn't even recognize my car. And the officer came over and says, you need to get to the hospital. And then we had a friend that was there, and he took me to the hospital, and my world just spiraled.
Seeing the car was the first instance you probably had that, oh, this is very serious.
Yeah, and then I had to call my friend to go get my son, who was 17, at school, and then my daughter, who was 25 at the time. So, yeah, a group of us, the family came in, and everyone just congregated at the hospital, and then the doctor came in and said, there is no hope. Where the accident was and where he hit, there was no hope that he was going to survive this. So then we had to make the decision, and it wasn't a decision, to donate organs. I mean, that John and I always talked about that kind of stuff, and I feel everyone needs to talk about that kind of stuff. My children and I said, yep, that's what we're going to do. And the doctor's like, well, do you want to think about this? I'm like, no, my husband and I, we already discussed this. And he was going to be an organ donor. So, and we had a lot of visitors, everybody. And we had 5 priests show up. So he had a lot of last rites, you know. Yeah.
Gay, if I could have you talk a little bit more about the organ donation and the agency and how it was conducted and the dignity of how it was done.
It was a beautiful process. They're out of Columbus, and they literally walk you through everything. They tell you what's going to happen. They told us what to expect during this process, because we had to wait for his body to reach a certain point. And at St. Rita's, that's where he was, we were the first honor walk in St. Rita's. And so John was the first honor walk there. But it's a very calming. We knew that he was going to be giving life and helping others move forward with their disabilities or whatever the need was. So he was 54 when he passed. So some of his organs were not viable because of his age, but he donated a lot, and we were thankful for that.
And the name of the organization?
Donate Life, out of Columbus, Ohio.
I want to, as a witness and a participant in that honor walk, it was amazing to see the hospital staff pay so much respect to the family and to that process that it's moving. And it was an honor to be a part of that walk with John and in those circumstances, which is so difficult. But it was a beautiful event that we felt lifted up as a family.
The hospital couldn't have been better. The nursing staff and the doctors, and quite a few of the doctors were family friends. So that was just as hard on them because they're the ones who had to deliver the bad news. So it was a grieving time because we got to say goodbye to him, but it was almost like a healing time also because, I don't know, it was peaceful almost. I never got mad at my faith. I never got mad at God. And it was, this is what we're doing in life.
I had a very similar experience bringing Fino home in an ambulance so that he could be at home when he passed. And a couple of times he had to go by ambulance to the hospital, and I, of course, rode along. And the hospital staff, in getting him released and sending me with all the supplies they could muster, hospice being a big piece of that, but the ambulance crew who took us home. Yeah.
So this has all happened. How do you move forward? How did you approach moving forward from these events?
I love the fact that you say move forward instead of moving on, because in grief, you never really move on. You move forward. So many people have asked her and I, so how you doing? Have you moved on from this? How's life? Are you progressing? There are days when you don't move out of your chair. To this day, it's a day-to-day. You don't know if one day you're going to be like really happy and laughing, but you always think about your one that you've lost. They're always right there with us. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about John. And you think about Fino every single day.
I do. Initially, the moving forward for me was our youngest daughter was, her bridal shower was the weekend after Fino was buried. And her wedding was 9 weeks later.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So having the focus of the final plans and the execution of her wedding, and it was two big families, so we had a crowd. And I learned very quickly in my process of grief that I was a lot more comfortable in a crowd like that than I was having lunch with somebody. I could bounce and get out of an uncomfortable conversation if that's what was happening.
You could probably disappear. You could leave if you
And
didn't
I
feel up to it.
Could absolutely disappear.
And nest around people who are shelter and comfort for you.
Yes.
Cheri was one of the first ones that took me out because after John passed, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't want to see people. I didn't want to talk about it because we are well-known families in town, and a lot of people speculated about how this accident actually happened, and I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to go to certain places, see certain people. And finally, Cheri was like, "Come on, it's just gonna be you and I. We're gonna go to a restaurant," and we did. So she was my first outing.
I think people have good intentions when they come to someone who has lost a spouse or lost anyone, and they are trying to help. They're trying to lift. They're trying to be there for you. And this is where the delicate question is like, what are your pet peeves with people coming across good intentions, but now you can help people that when they're confronted with this situation of how to say things versus the way that it comes out from us that really may not be directly involved.
And let me ask a part B to that. What are the pet peeves? And then what's the right way or the most comforting and encouraging way to be supportive?
Oh, pet peeve. I would say being asked and then them not accepting your answer. If you say, "Oh, I'm doing okay," and you might get the, "Really? You're doing okay?" And I don't feel like I should have to substantiate that
because
in any way.
they will cross-reference. Are you sure you're really doing okay? And it's like, what do you want me to say?
Yeah.
we've lost our husbands. I do okay. There's nothing else I can say about this. Then they want to know, well, how are you doing okay? I mean, they just kind of keep dragging. They want different answers out of us. There is no correct answer.
Yeah, I would be very open to those kind of conversations with my closest friends, Gay and I in particular, because we shared a similar circumstance. And I think she and I talked fairly regularly about what was really happening in our worlds, in our heads, in our hearts. I spent 9 months sitting on the couch watching TV with my little dog after my daughter was married. And probably really only spent time with 3 or 4 of my friends. And typically just at my house or at their home.
And to some degree, that's probably aftermath of the isolation you went through in the years leading up to that, right?
The isolation, and then the total absence of that in what happened after Fino passed, and having to continue on with the wedding and have this great big gathering where our whole family was very much on display.
Yeah, fishbowl.
Right. And we were all trying to celebrate the wedding and my daughter and her amazing husband, but still had a very empty place in our hearts. Because we spent a great deal of time talking about how would it go for Dad at the wedding. What would we do? Would we have caregivers there? Would he allow us to fit him in a tux? And would he wear the tux that day? Would his behaviors be all right? We spent a lot of time talking about that, and ultimately it ended up not to be a concern.
And the absence creates its own pressure. And
It does. And all the things that we thought about when all of a sudden we just didn't have to be worried about that. Because I was worried about it from the standpoint of, thinking the secret was still intact, and he was going to be in front of 450 people doing what he does.
In an article I read from the National Council of Aging, they had a section in there about how to cope with the death of a spouse. And some of the answers that they provided was to talk to a qualified counselor, focus on self-care, how you're sleeping, how you're eating, limit your alcohol consumption. Gay, we have a problem with that because we love tequila so much.
I failed miserably on the alcohol consumption.
And then, of course, exercise. Also staying busy, getting a pet, and then turning to others for some social support. So I may have answered the question for you guys, but I'm curious, how did you guys cope with that, and were these elements a part of that coping?
I would say yes to all of them. My husband died in 2019. I got a dog in 2020, the day after Christmas. I did do counseling, but it was a couple years later until I was ready, and it did help tremendously. I didn't need it for very long, but I did do it. And my husband and I had always talked about making an addition on the house. I did it. I went ahead and I did it.
Good
so
for you.
I did that, and I did not necessarily cut back on the alcohol. So the tequila was still there. And I had a beautiful support system of close-knit friends and, of course, my family. They were very supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, same with me. Because John passed before Fino did, Gay and Curt were also, or not also, were already tequila experts. And so through their expertise, introduced me into some of today's really yummy tequilas. I had a dog, thank goodness. My kids were nearby, accessible to me, and of course, a couple of very good friends.
And
So,
you and I started exercising together.
yes, after
Yes.
John passed.
Yes.
Fino was home
Fino
yet.
was still,
But
yes.
yeah, since Fino's passing, I don't think I've
We've got-
exercised much.
We've gotten a little bad about that.
Less exercise, more tequila.
A little bit, right? Our ratios might be a little mixed
Yeah.
up, but
Yes. As your community is always so important, and we're talking about this stage of our life. How did your community change? Not being widows. How did that look? How did you started working out? I don't know if that changes community for you in working out or whatever, but what's happened since then in the whole kind of social range?
I don't know if our community changed. I changed.
Okay.
It took me a while to want to go out with couples, and they're very close. They're like extremely close with us. I couldn't do it. I still have a problem going to like the lake with my friends because that was our thing to do. So I would say I changed. They still invite me as couples to hang with them, to go out.
same. The first time I was with couples and without Fina was very weird. I don't know how else to describe it. I wasn't sure I was emotional.
It was just
I didn't know what I
awkward.
was. Yes, I was just very awkward.
Yeah, it was awkward.
Yeah.
And we will kind of go, well, are you going to go? I'll go if you go to events or weddings or whatnot.
Get to be each other's plus one.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think that this situation has changed your social outlooks, that now you're doing more together with the group that you now are a part of being widows? That you're now doing more things with widows and widowers versus the couple thing that you used to do?
Well, we are very fortunate where we have a group of friends that they're still married and one's divorced, but we still all go out as girls. We will go.
Oh, that's great.
We'll go on vacations together, and we will go for girl nights out and just hang out, just with the women. Sometimes we allow the guys to join us.
But they have to behave.
Yeah, and then I will go on the family vacations with my family and whatnot. So that's different, and I love the fact that I am invited to all those things because we have a sister who is also widowed, and so we will do traveling together. But I'm always with the Brewers. It's like I'm their sidekick.
Those guys. Jeez.
So we talk a lot about redirection. Mm-hmm. This podcast is about the next 30 years. Are you in your next 30? Are you, I know you're still working in gay because you've got that very successful business. But how do you look at kind of quote unquote redirection?
I do look towards the future. I'm not exactly sure where that's heading now. I don't see myself ending up with another relationship. I'm not looking for another relationship. I'm very secure in where I am, who I am, and who I'm with, and who I surround myself with.
I would say the same. I have been asked repeatedly. It's another one of those pet peeve questions. Are you dating yet? I have absolutely no desire, but it's not even something I really think about. I choose to. I didn't become a mother until I was 38 and 40 years old. So my children mean the absolute world to me. I have 3 stepchildren who we have forged an amazing family with. And I just want to pour everything I've got into my kids and my grandkids. And I'm delighted to be doing that. I've also fielded a few questions from other people in my circumstance that I've been fortunate enough to offer support to, whether it's names and numbers of caregivers that were so good to our family, or just to go have a salad and you hear them get off their chest whatever they need to get off their chest. And so I'm kind of looking at the opportunity maybe to do more of that kind of work. But we'll see.
Yeah, after John passed away, we had lost a couple of friends also. And I would go to the funeral home and the wives would go, how do we do this? And I says, number one rule is you grieve the way you need to grieve. There is no time limit. And if you want to stay home and scream at the world, which I did, I screamed at the world. It's okay. Don't let anybody tell you how to grieve unless you're going in a really bad direction. But otherwise, take your time, be by yourself, and just be. And that's the best word that I can come up with. I was just being. And if that meant me sitting on my sofa for a couple months, that's what I did.
That's how I felt too. I just needed to be with myself and figure myself out. What does this mean to me, and when am I going to be ready to answer questions and see people and go places? I just took my time.
Yours was so different, where I was thrown into a couple scenarios. My son was just entering a senior in high school, but we also had, because of the accident, I had 3 years of court. So that took a lot of my time, and that I felt like I lost my husband all the time because we were always having to talk about it. We had to go to court. We had to figure all this out. So that wore me out. That just took me down to the ground, and it took me quite a while to want to do anything.
Yeah, that had to have been just piling on. That here you're dealing with this loss, and then you're dealing with things within the legal system that doesn't really let you be able to grieve properly, as well as to move forward in the way that you want to, because you're always being pulled back into that scenario.
Exactly.
And your stories are personal to you, obviously. And I've heard from other people out there. Matter of fact, I've played golf with this gentleman who had a wife for many years, kids, dealt with a prolonged illness. She passed away, and he's 76 years old. And this past Sunday, he just got married.
Oh, God bless him.
And it's one of those things that, I talked to him about that, and he says, it was a gal that I knew in high school, and we just started, she reached out to me as soon as my wife passed, and I said, no, too early. And then all of a sudden he says, I think I'm ready to have lunch. And then all of a sudden I saw him last Tuesday, and his comment was, I'm getting married this Sunday. And he was just like a little kid. He was so giddy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm happy for you. So it is a personal story and what people are looking to do.
Yeah, I'm always very happy to hear stories like that, and I grin ear to ear when people do find new love and new purpose in their lives. But I don't know, I feel like mine is closer to home. I want to pour it all into my kids and grandkids right now.
How old are your grandkids?
Currently, I only have 2, hoping for a new batch here before too long. But I have.
I love referring to them as batches.
Batch. Yes.
Well, it's because
Put it in the oven, bake it for 350.
exactly.
Just is a batch less or equal to a litter?
It's probably going to be less.
Less than a litter.
I'm going to say less than a litter. But the age difference between my oldest stepson and my son, who's the youngest, is 23 years.
Wow.
So when I say batch, there's going to be several years of separation before I get my next batch. But currently I have a sophomore in high school and a 6th grader. And I have so loved participating in their young lives. And
But yeah, we're moving forward. We're taking things day by day. To be honest, all the conversations my husband and I had previous to that, I was prepared. I knew what door to go to. I knew what he wanted, and I knew how to handle the business aspect of everything, because John and I always talked about those scenarios. I think it was because of family history, because he lost his father at a young age, and it just, uncles and aunts were losing, life, and we just kind of followed that path, like, hey, one of us is going to die. What do we do? Where is everything? Where's all the paperwork? And I knew exactly where to go.
I want to dive a little deeper into that. I don't want to brush over that, because that's a huge thing.
it was a very, very big piece for me.
Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper into that. What is the thing, like when you say paperwork, what does that mean? When you say get things in order, what does that mean?
So for me, John had a file with all his bank's accounts, life insurance, who to contact at his company, how to apply for certain things. And we had talked previously, so I knew that wasn't written down, what he wanted in a funeral, how he wanted things done. But all the financial aspects were written down. Telephone numbers, account numbers, everything I needed was right there.
My situation was a little different. I had always taken care of our family finances, paid all our bills, knew our insurance carriers, life insurance providers. The sort of mystery for me was the structure of the family trust. I had a very bare bones thought of its structure and was caught very off guard by the complexity of it. When I had to actually sit and learn it, I had to learn a whole new language. I had to talk with attorneys and financial planners, and Fino had always done all that. So that was really overwhelming for me. The legal jargon was so much more than the bare bones information that I had going into having to take on those responsibilities.
It's one of those topics that is tough, difficult to talk about. You don't want to talk about it. You put it off. It's a great procrastination thing. It is amazing when I listen to some Dave Ramsey interviews that he has and how many people don't have a will and how many people don't have conversations beforehand. And when all of a sudden mental deficiencies happen, then you're even further into a black hole of not knowing where things are going because the one that was accountable for it is no longer accountable.
Yeah, Fino was a little further down the disease path, than I thought he was until he sold his business and came home full-time with me and carried all these papers in and couldn't tell me what they were all about, what they meant, because people at work were helping him with all of that. And I just had to figure it out. I had to learn it. I cried a lot. I was very overwhelmed. I think in the end, I've done okay. Because it was all mapped out. And he did all have all those documents in place, as did I. But I just didn't. Yes, and I just didn't speak the language. I didn't know a lot of the terms that I had to learn. So
who did you rely on to help work through all this with you?
The trust attorney was very helpful. But I also had a woman that I worked with after Fino sold the beer distributorship. We built 2 car washes. Not sure why, because it ended up being, a lot more responsibility for me when I would rather have been taking care of my husband. I had to run 2 car washes. But the woman who was my business manager that I worked side by side with for most of what I did for the washes was amazing. She was fearless. She was honest. She would dig into anything, and we'd sit there and talk it through and figure it out. Yeah. She was very, very helpful to me.
And
Dave,
here's the
did you
thing.
have somebody?
Well, no, I did not. My scenario is different than hers because she had more of the business. John had owned a business, and then we sold it off, and so we didn't have to worry about that. And there were some still things remaining, and I went to his boss. But going back to the very beginning, I want to get back to that, till death do us part. So if you're married all these years and you stay together, one of you is going to die first. So if you're saying these vows to death do us part, why would you not have everything in order? Why would you not have these conversations? I've talked to too many people who go, I don't know what she wanted, or my husband never showed me where the investments are. Anything as minute as that. It's like you have to have those conversations. We had those conversations, and I was so thankful because it was stressful enough losing your loved one. But now you got to deal with all this. Even having the house titled correctly. That's the one thing, for some odd reason, we did not. So the house had to go through probate, but nothing else did. And that was just minor paperwork. That was no big deal. The lawyer helped me through that. So, yeah, conversations, that's so important in any relationship. Even if you're not married and you're dating somebody, conversations.
I remember back when I started dating my wife, her mom was a lawyer. And when we decided to move in together, I remember the partnership agreement that we had to, and neither of us could buy anything more than $200 without
Talking
the communication about it. So I thought we got off to a really good start that way, but was interested in your comment because your husband had lost his dad, was one of the drivers that really said, we've got to have this stuff in order.
That would be my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of everything that his family went through.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say same with us. I think Fino lost his father when he was just 16 years old. But he had a wonderful man for a stepfather for more than 30 years. And he made sure that he picked up where Fino's dad would have left off, and made sure that Fino knew what he needed to know. He had a family, he owned a home and a business, and he wanted to make sure that everything was wrapped up in a bow on it.
How was it helping your kids cope with this while you're going through the grieving process?
I spent a lot more time focused on my children through Fino's illness. They were still, when Fino first was presenting with symptoms, Matthew was only in 7th or 8th grade. So he never really grew up with his father fully present. He was the only one of our 3 sons that shared Fino's interest in hunting and fishing and digging in the dirt and having a garden and all those sort of things. And he only was able to experience a very small bit of that. Ellie was finishing high school, going off to college. And I was very focused on making sure they knew I was okay, even if I wasn't okay. I didn't want them worrying about me, having her a couple of hours away in college and wondering what mom's doing or how mom's doing. And I didn't want Matthew coming home from school and sports and having to take care of me. I wanted them to be on their own journey, doing their own college and high school things, and I didn't want any of my behaviors to impact that. So my focus was more during his illness than after his passing. I think we were all just very resolute with where we were after he was gone. It was harder as he declined.
My story would be Devin was living in Columbus, so she was 25. Colin was 17. And it just so happened COVID kicked in then. And so they, school stopped and everything. And it was Colin and I. We were by ourselves. And my son would just cry. He'd put his head in my lap and he would just cry. And I had to be strong for him for that. I wanted to be strong for my kids, to be there for them. Let them know that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to cry and I'm going to be mad, but I'm going to be okay. We're strong. We're a strong family. We're a strong family unit. But it's hard. I did go to Colin's games and his graduation, and Devin got married, and hopefully grandchildren. And you just think when all these things happen, I still want to go, oh, I need to call John. But it's like, oh yeah, that's not happening. But you always have them on your shoulder going, he should be here for this. Millions of people are going through what we're going through, and you just learn to be a little softer with people.
Yes,
You don't know their story.
No, you don't. And there were times when I felt like I wasn't being treated very kindly, and I feel like if they had known the journey I was on, they may have treated me a little differently. There was one person in particular who I felt was trying to take advantage of it, and boy, I cut that tie quick. Actually, 2, and I cut both of them very quickly. I was fiercely protective of my husband because I was charged with keeping that secret, and I didn't take that responsibility lightly. It was so important to him that it became important to me.
Grief always exists, as you said, and I say it all the time, where's John, right? It's always present. Are you settled in? How would you rate yourself as far as I'm being really, really curt here, and I mean that in the abrupt sense. and if you're not comfortable answering it, don't answer it. But on a scale of 1 to 10, 6 years, 2.5, how you doing?
I'm a 10. I'm very settled into how I'm choosing to lead my life. I don't have any regrets about the choices I've made. I feel very fulfilled with the choices that I've made, and I'm happy.
That's beautiful.
We do laugh a lot.
We do laugh a lot.
We do laugh a
At
lot.
ourselves mostly.
Not from the tequila, I hope.
Oh,
Well,
Well.
what's wrong with that?
could always be the case.
Yeah. I'm not a 10. Like, once again, my story's different.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I'm at peace. And I feel content. I could just be by myself on a beach and be really okay with that. I'm at peace, and it just, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Yeah. Obviously, I wish Fina were here to do all the things that he missed out on and to have a presence in his children and grandchildren's lives. But again, like you said in the open of the show, I'm so happy that I choose to believe that where he is now, he's not sick, he's whole, he's happy, it's a perfect place.
Yeah,
and
that sees me through.
that
a
gives
lot.
me a lot of relief from my grief.
We can't thank you guys enough for your vulnerability and your willingness to share with others. I'm supremely confident that this is going to help some people, and I hope you're a blessing to others by sharing your story. So we really thank you for that.
Thank you.
You're
for having
welcome.
us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
And ladies, thanks. John and Fino are here. They're smiling. And I thank you for taking the time to join us, sharing your stories. As Adam said, I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to this. And thank you for being
I hope
you
we've
are.
helped. I hope we've helped for someone listening to this going, oh, I am okay. I can carry on.
That,
Yeah.
and if something comes of this, if you all get feedback where your listeners would like to dive a little deeper into any part of what I talked about, I will happily come back and readdress questions, concerns, what ifs.
Just a heartfelt thank you. It's this podcast is about this time of life that some people, have to deal with this. I think what you've been able to share today is going to be a great help and relief, and have the conversation. We brought up some things that are really important, I think, for people to address. And I'll leave today, wanting to do a couple things, that I know I need to do, and I think that's really important. So thank you.
Catch you next time on the Redirect Podcast.
We'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the 1819 Innovation Lab at the University of Cincinnati for their incredible support and partnership making this show possible. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can find more of our content on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as Instagram. Have questions or want to connect? Drop us a line at info@redirect-u.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.